Hey everybody, it's Michael Bryson for This is Bodybuilding, and I'm here today with Guy CISTERNINO. Guy, thanks for joining me, man.
What's going on, bro? Pat, thanks for having me.
That's a pleasure. I followed you from
Long time.
A long time. 2012, I think, was the first time I saw you compete live at the New York Pro.
That's right. Yeah. I took six that year.
Yeah, 6th or 5th. I think you might have been
fifth.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short.
Fifth. Yeah, fifth.
But man, you the next year, I thought it was kind of controversial. You were second.
That was 14. I took a year off and they came back in 14 and
that's right.
I lost to Aaron Clark.
Yeah. I had you first.
That was one of the craziest I've ever looked. I thought I had him smoked.
Yeah. I had you winning. I had Beto Apispor actually in second, and then I had Aaron third. But you guys all look great. But yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. Yep. I won it. I took second in four. And I remember I took second at that show. And I just won Dallas the week before. And I got so pissed off that I didn't win that I went to Toronto, I think a week or two later. And it was like a 30-guy lineup. And I won that show because I was like, I'm not going to Olympia on a second fucking place.
That's good.
So I was like all pissed off.
Yeah. Then you won 2 years in a row, right? Or
15, 16, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. That was a great time. That was great stuff. I loved being the New York Pro had such great energy. I mean, I'm not in New York anymore, and neither's the show. So but yeah, it was great times.
Yeah, man, and especially when it was like in 14, when it was like in the city, like in that little Tribeca, that little auditorium.
Awesome.
It was wild. Like that was just like bodybuilding at its like finest right there, you know.
Yeah, I wish it never left there because the energy of that place was just so.
Problem was that you couldn't get a bigger spot. And the parking was a fucking nightmare. I mean, it's New York City. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. For me, it was easy because I just took a subway.
Oh yeah. For you, it's a cakewalk, you know?
Yeah. What was your greatest victory, do you think? The one that you felt the best about?
Pro victory or overall bodybuilding?
Well, can you tell me both?
I would say one of the turning pro is definitely very monumental because there's like back then, I'm going to preface with back then, because I think they give out, no, I don't think they give them out, but I think a lot of pro cards are handed out that were never handed out back in the day. When I turned pro in 2008, it was only one pro card per class, per division at the nationals. Now they do, my dog's pounding his water. Tank. Enough. God. Now they give out so many pro cards that like I guess it's hard to relish in victory when you take a second place and turn pro. So I think the fact that I lost to Jose in 07 and took a year off, which I've never done, and came back and only competed in one show and won it, like that show meant a lot to me because that was kind of like, you know, a lot of people back where I came from, there was no bodybuilders in Jersey, like where I grew up. Nobody even knew what the hell it was I was doing. My parents were clueless. Like nobody really understood what bodybuilding was or even meant to me until that day. Like my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother couldn't make it to that show. It was in Atlanta, but they were there. And I guess them being at that show and like seeing all the people and even people cheering for like their son who they don't even fucking know. You know, like that's just, and then like I started to go, you know, then you won and then they put you in the magazine as like a little article and a write-up. And then they start to see, oh, he's actually like serious and he's kind of good at this stuff. And so that win was definitely big for me. And I'm going to have to say the second New York Pro victory, because the second New York Pro victory was a lot harder than the first, because the second one, my brother got married the day before. Right. So I was in a wedding, running around, running to see Chris, running back to the wedding, changing shirts after Chris looked at me, like giving a best man speech, like trying to stay off my feet as much as possible, like eating my food at the wedding table, like not drinking enough water. Like it was just it was mayhem the night before that show. And then to come out victorious on a show like that just goes to show that like people that get ready for shows and just sit around all week or all day getting ready. Like I was literally had to be on my A game the day before my show, like on my feet and like attentive and talkative, and I did it and turned around and still came to New York and won that show. So that was awesome for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you looked amazing too, man. That was, it's so weird, you know, how fast things have changed really. Cause for me, it's like yesterday when you turn pro, when you think about how the industry has changed so much, and I guess the world's changed so much with social media and stuff. Then it was special for you to win a pro card and to be featured in a magazine. It was like, wow, you know.
A lot of people don't even get to say that word anymore, magazine.
Right. And then people who do, like I see on Instagram, people showing that like they're on the cover of
a digital magazine.
But who? Yeah, no one reads these things.
Is that like a braggable thing to be on a cover
anymore?
Of a magazine?
Yeah, I don't know. Used to be, and it's just weird that was 2008. That's like yesterday to me. So it's weird how much it's changed so fast. And I do know, to talk to your point about like getting a pro card at second. Like I know people, especially a person who dealt with some feelings about that. Like they would turn pro, not ever winning a show. And
because think about life. When do you ever call yourself a winner when you take second?
Yeah.
Name one other sport that you can actually not win and get rewarded as the winner. Name one. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. So it's hard to accept a second place victory. I'm not bashing anybody that turned pro and took a second place. I'm not. But for me,
that's the rules. It's the rules. So,
it's the rules. Yeah. I'm not bashing them. It's what they are. I don't make the rules. I abide by them. That's how it is. But because I will say, but I don't think if I turned pro with a second place, I would take it.
Right.
Because there's a difference in earning a first place or a pro card and deserving second. If you deserved second, that means you didn't deserve to win and you didn't deserve a pro card. That's just my feelings about it. And my feelings are based on how I came up in the sport. And that's why I view it that way. Now, there might be people, and listen, what the IFBB does to make the IFBB is what it is today. And the rules that they change, they take out, they add in, they leave, they alternate, whatever it is, they do that because it's a business. And I understand that. I look at it from my perspective and I just say, I don't really enjoy that rule. But the rule also helps bodybuilding because a lot of people don't want to bodybuild anymore. A lot of people see the classic guys, or they see the guys in the board shorts and they go, oh, I can do this without doing all this added stuff. Or I could train, but maybe I don't have to train as hard. Or I can train, or I don't have to train legs. There's just so many different avenues now. And I think the reason why they started giving out more pro cards was to bring more people into the industry and to make it more of a mainstream, which, you know, obviously we always try to do, and so I can understand it from that aspect, but you can literally start this industry, never win a show and win a pro card. You could go to a regular show, take fifth, go to a national or go to like a national qualifier and take third. Then you go to a pro qualifier and take second and turn pro. You never know what it's like to win. And then you can turn pro.
Right.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah, there's not much. And also just the person who I'm speaking about actually did become a top level pro and has won a pro show and has been on the Olympia stage. But it also does saturate the IFBB Pro League with some subpar talent, you know? And then you end up seeing that on stages, and I don't know.
It's not like when I first started competing back in early 2003, I used to watch the Olympia with PJ Braun on pay-per-view. And every single fucking guy that walked out on stage was fucking wild.
Yeah.
Every one of them, right? I watch the shows now and I'm impressed with maybe 10 to 20% of what I see.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it lack of talent? Is it lack of effort? Is it lack of, I don't know. Because back then they didn't have all the drugs that are readily available to the bodybuilders today. So that can't be the answer. So is it lack of just training? Is my thing always is, I think social media killed bodybuilding, because social media turned bodybuilders into go hard when the camera's rolling.
Right.
And I have seen it. I've seen it during photo shoots, video shoots. When the camera's on, I've seen people go fucking wild during training. And then when the training camera stops, it's like 50%.
Right.
And I feel like and I said it in a seminar, people always want to be where, let's say I am, or let's say like the other pros are. They want to be on the other side of the fence, but they have no idea what we took to get over that fence and to get onto this side. You know, there's a lot that came with being an amateur, and a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and a lot of becoming an adult and understanding business and understanding bodybuilding. And these kids just think because they have an Instagram and they work out that, oh, like this is going to make, I mean, it turned the world into laziness. Like, look at all the people that don't work and have OnlyFans, or they do this, or I was talking to just having conversation with a girl, and she's like, yeah, I got to go here today because I have to go make content. Like, she wasn't an athlete. Like, who the fuck are you going to make content for?
Who cares?
Right? You're literally, you don't work, and you're going somewhere to make content for your 2,000 followers. Like, that's the life we live in. People don't work. I worked up until I won my first pro show, for God's sakes. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sitting in the at the Olympia, I was lucky to sit next to Chris Aceto both nights of the finals.
Great man.
We were just talking about how, like, and I hate to sound like this old guy who's like back in my day or whatever. And
that's how I sound. That's how I sound now.
Right. And as a fan, I've never been that way before, because I've always been like, I love the Arnold era. I love Lee Haney's era. I love Dorian. I love Jay. All the eras. I'm the biggest Phil Heath fan there is. And we were just talking, he and I, about how, like, anyone from the top 10 of, like, say 2012 through 2018 could probably have walked onto this Olympia stage, and if not won, you know, really made
a good argument that they could have.
Yeah. And like you say, now you can look at even the Olympia stage and go, there's like 3 guys that were like, oh, wow, you know, like Hadi, I was like, wow, he's in shades. That was Olympia conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I personally thought Brand, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I had this conversation with actually one of the judges that would judge the Olympia. And he goes, what do you think about the show? I said, I had Brandon winning Friday. And he goes, so did I. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. I got into an argument with Fuad about that, because Fuad was like, no way. I thought Brandon, if the show was solely based on Friday night, I had Brandon winning.
Yeah, I had Brandon winning. I did. I thought it was between he and Hadi, honestly. I mean, nothing against Ryan.
When Ramy came out on Saturday, I thought he closed the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You know, but Brandon, I thought, brought his legs up. His conditioning was good. And I thought overall, he was the overall best looking bodybuilder on that stage. Yeah. Hadi comes in so crazy peeled that it's like almost unbelievable, but he is a little undersized still.
Yes. And I thought that was more noticeable this year than last year.
Yeah, I think his legs didn't have as much sweep as they normally have to him. Yeah. And I heard while I was there was obviously talks about, and I don't know this is just what I heard. A lot of what I've heard had to do with areas in his body, like his shoulders, that were just a little suspect that the judges were questioning. Now I can go on and say, I can point out 5 other guys that I think are
maybe Mr. Olympia. I mean, honestly, shoulders. Anyway,
I mean, listen, there's a lot of guys that I could even point out, or that I know do that shit. And it's like, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. You know, it's like, I had somebody tell me, oh, well, if he did it better and it didn't look like that, maybe it would change the judge's perspective. It's like, oh, so it's okay to do it, but just do it a better, just do it.
So it doesn't, so it's not quite so obvious.
Like, it's like 6 one half a dozen the other, you know, if it's like, I can see what they're talking about. Still, with that being said, whether it's true or not, he's still very impressive.
Very, yeah.
You know,
were you at the Olympia this year?
I was there, yeah.
I don't feel like I saw you. I don't think I saw you.
Yeah, I was at the Blackstone booth. I went to prejudging for a little bit for the 212. Open finals is where I was not at.
Okay. What did you think about the 212?
I'll say this. I was confused. I was confused because of this. And this is going to actually parlay into this past weekend. And this is not really, this is all positive. As long as I've been a bodybuilder, the word or the phrase, you have to knock out the champ, is something that everybody always says when it comes to a bodybuilding show. Now, that being said, people think that me and Derek have this like unspoken fucking beef, which we don't. Me and Derek actually talk a lot. He actually wanted me to come to Texas when he was there last week, but I couldn't because I had to do a seminar up here. But Derek's physique is throws me off. And it throws me off for one reason. He looks insane from the back double and the back lat spread. Insane. Crazy, wildly insane. But for some reason from the front, usually bodybuilders from the bottom half down are great, or the bottom half up are great, and either their legs need to come up or their upper body needs to come up. Derek just looked flat from the front. And it's weird because from the back, he looked popping and peeled. But like when he gets his most muscular, his chest nothing happens. There's no lines. There's no, he's almost like very flat, just up through this whole entire area. Mm-hmm. Now, Sean is smaller, but he's got so much dense, crazy muscle on him. Yeah. Now, you give Derek the nod, which made sense because of his shape. Okay. Which then turns around, I can say, okay, that makes sense. Derek's got better shape than Sean, and Derek is arguably better than he was last year. Now, did Derek get judged against Derek, or did Derek get judged against Sean? Because 99% of the people that I spoke to had Sean winning, as did I. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say Derek doesn't deserve to be the winner because he won. He deserved it. He obviously won. I wasn't as close to the judges as other people were, and I wasn't backstage. I didn't see Derek in person. Just like Hunter got fourth. People were like, what the fuck? How did Hunter get fourth? Now, when Hunter got called out for fourth, I was at the gas house with Branch and a lot of the people, and he got called out on that final call out, and me and Branch went like this. And we watched. Now, what I will say to fans, and I said this on Bro Chat, we were watching on a TV inside, right? That was when Hunter started to sweat. Yeah. Right. And then he walked off stage after that. And then me and Branch happened to go outside, and there was another TV outside. Well, for people that don't know how much of a difference this makes, I didn't know this at the time, because when we went outside, I looked at Branch. I'm like, wow. I said, Hunter looks way fucking better right now. And then I walked inside. The TV inside was 720p. The one outside was 1080. Just that difference on TV made a fucking huge difference as to what my opinion was of people on a TV. So people didn't think Hunter deserved fourth. I'm indifferent because I wasn't there, but I think Hunter beat Nick because of shape. I think Derek beat Sean because of shape. Now, this is where I don't understand. I had a conversation about the guys off topic about this. How do you do that and then turn around? And I'm not saying allow. How does letting Sean or Sean winning the open show just threw the biggest monkey wrench into bodybuilding that they could have ever done? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying Sean didn't deserve to win, because he absolutely was the most complete person on stage. But when you give up 50, 60, 70 pounds of muscle and the other guy is just still conditioned, where is the fucking fine line of bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is size, shape, symmetry, and condition. Sean in an open lineup is the smallest guy on that stage. And having him win, now, this is not a knock on Sean. What does that mean for bodybuilding? Should there be a 212 class?
Right. Is it necessary?
Because because now you just proved the smallest guy in 212. He literally is the smallest guy in 212. Just beat guys that were 270 fucking pounds.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Australia, there was two guys that I took fifth at the Arnold Classic in Australia. There were two guys that were like 270 and I'm like, man, those guys are I'm like 206. They're huge. But now it's like, what happens now? And that's going to be that was a question that a lot of people are asking. Now what? Like he won now, like Flex Lewis never won an open show. So was it that the guys weren't on point or 100% or that good at that show? And that's why Sean came out victorious. And that was a lesson to the open guys that just because you're bigger doesn't mean you can't come in peeled. But where is the criteria now? Where does it go?
Right.
Because size was always a thing. So many people chase size. Then you have 74 pound, like miniature Ronnie Coleman coming in peeled, smoking these guys. Like, where's the fine line?
Yeah.
Because I don't know where it is anymore.
I don't know. People were saying things like, wait, how does Sean win an open show when everyone was saying Hadi didn't win the Olympia because of size? But the truth is too, though, that Sean wasn't competing against Big Ramy and Brandon Curry. So there's a difference of talent level or excellence. So yeah, but it's interesting. I just also felt like on a whole, the 212 guys at the Olympia, I was right behind the judges for the shows that happened at the Expo. I was like right there. And the 212 guys and the classic guys were all like peeled, like in great condition. And then there's a big jump when you go to, but maybe it had to do with the fact that I was sitting so far away from the open guys. I don't know.
What I think it is, I think that people try to chase what the champ is.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody knows that Sean was peeled and fucking peeled, both bubbly, full as a house last year. I think the 212 wanted to chase fucking peeled and fucking, just I obviously being full is nor here nor there, depending upon how you carb up. But I think everybody was really chasing that condition because they saw that why Sean won. And I think people try to chase size in the open because Ramy wins. But I also didn't think Ramy was as big as he was last year.
No, they said he was heavier. I don't think so. I'm gonna look at.
He was not heavier.
No,
if he was heavier,
smaller in every way. Like even when he was in the suit on stage, like I was there really close for the press conference. I'm gonna say he looked like he was about 275, 280.
His arms didn't look as big. His shoulders didn't look as round. His back never has like a ton of detail, and his legs didn't look as separated.
Yeah, I agree.
But on Saturday night, watching it from the TV, he walked out and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's why they used to call Phil Mr. Saturday Night.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that makes a huge difference having a 2-day show. But
yeah,
I'm wondering to see what's going to happen now with the 212 because, the 212 shows have been less and less. They've been, we don't have as many as other divisions. And now you have an open guy. You have a 212 guy lose in a lineup where there were some big names. Granted, though, I think the only guy that hit his mark 100% was Regan. And I still don't think that 100% Regan was the best Regan we're going to see. I think there's a way better version of him that's in the mix. Sergio was better, not his best.
No.
You had Max Charles, who, was always in the upper call outs. You had Cedric, who looked like he hadn't trained in 2 years.
Yeah, and what happened? He got sick or something, or
I don't know. I saw pictures. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then he didn't do finals. He just didn't come out for finals.
Yeah,
so he got sick. Yeah, it was really. I was like, whoa. He looked like 5 years had gone by since the last time I seen him or something.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah. It was almost like he retired and came and started working out again and came back on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope he's okay. I don't know. That was shocking. I thought it was going to be between him and Sergio going into the show. I just thought it was going to be between those two guys.
That's who everybody thought.
Yeah. Maybe Sean can crack the top 4 or 5, something like that. But
I had Sean, I think, in 5th or 6th.
Mm-hmm. He just was he's got the density and just shredded, bubbly muscle.
Well, if you would have taken each guy and compared them by themselves, Sean wins.
Yes.
The problem I have with it is regardless, because Sean's short, right? So he's a freak. He's big. He's got so much muscle on his frame. But when you put him in the lineup of guys, he just doesn't look big.
Yeah.
And it's not a Sean thing. It's a height thing. And that's where I get confused. He's the biggest guy for his frame.
Muscle-wise, yes.
Muscle-wise on the stage. But when you compare him to everybody, I like the reason why I put him in 6, I thought, because I was like, he might get lost in the crowd, like being so small, so short. Like I just kind of saw him getting like overlooked. That's why I gave him the place that I gave him.
Especially because there were guys like lots of guys who are 6 foot taller better in the show. So
yeah.
Or 5'11".
Listen, I think him winning is a wake-up call for the fucking open guys, like to wake the fuck up. I think that's number one. I just don't know what it means for the 212 class, because if I was an IFB somewhere in the IFBB, I'd be like, we just had 174-pound guy win, that's not even middleweight's 176, right? Wow. He's not even at a middleweight weight, and he just smoked. How many guys were in the show?
I'm not sure. 16 or I'm not sure.
16. He just beat 15 very good open pros. So I'd be like, why do we have this 212 division?
Right. Sort of like, yeah. If they want to get bigger, they can do open. If they want to be smaller, they can go to classic or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I love the 212 division because I fit perfectly in it, because I was a guy who was not willing to do certain things, push certain limits, and I was happy with the weight I was at and didn't want to get bigger, didn't want to get smaller. I liked what I brought, and I just tried to improve a little bit each time. And that's why I like the division. And I've crossed over. When I crossed over, I was like, I crossed over to 2 Arnolds. I knew I didn't have any expectations of winning. Right. But when I saw Sean won, I was like, that motherfucker won. I was like, God damn it, he did it. I was like, good for him. But then I was like, but now what?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a crossroads, I guess we're at now. See what happens as this next season goes on. Yeah. And what do you think about, people asking him? I mean, do you he's now qualified. He's qualified for life as a 212er, as an Olympia champion, and now he's qualified for the Open. Which would you choose? I would ask
Jim and be like, is there a chance I could do both? Because I think there have been other guys qualified for both.
Okay.
I remember there was a time where Flex did a couple open shows, and I think Hottie as well, and qualified for Open and 212. Because remember, there was a big thing.
Yes,
of Hottie.
That's right.
So I don't think
George Peterson, to his credit, was also qualified for Classic in 212.
Yes. So Sean's not the first guy to be qualified for both. He is the first 212 guy, I believe, to win a show.
Right.
So if I'm always the type of guy who doesn't hurt to ask. Mm-hmm. I'd call up Weinberg and be like, hey, do you think they let me compete in the Open and 212? Right. Do you think? And if he said no, I would be like, it's hard, because it's like, are you ever going to get that? This is the thing that Sean has to consider. Is he ever going to get an opportunity to win another open show and stand on that? Because listen, prejudging on that stage is not prejudging at the expo.
Right.
And you get treated differently as an open. The press, you get the press conference, you get you just get treated. There's things that open guys get that 212s don't get. So it's kind of, I mean,
he would be with a star level, because here he's a Mr. Olympia or an Olympic champion at 212, choosing to do Open. It would be that's a big story.
I think if I was Sean and I still had my career left and like knew I had time left, I think I would do the Open.
Yeah, because you just don't get
because I think him doing the Open, beating guys like Regan, Sergio, who've been on the Olympia stage, I think people, it's really gonna fucking throw in a monkey wrench as to, oh fuck, Sean's doing it. Well, he's small. Oh well, he fucking beat Max. He beat Sergio. He beat Regan. He beat fucking Martin Fritz. He beat this, like, he beat guys that have been on that Olympia stage and in the top 10. Like he rocked them, with straight motherfucking ones. Nonetheless.
Yeah.
So if I was him, I'd be like, you know what? They call me the Giant Killer. I'm gonna fucking go on the Open.
Yeah.
I'd do it. Fucking David Henry did it. Listen, I'll say this. If Sean wants to be the real OG Giant Killer, then be the fucking Giant Killer and step on the Olympia stage, because that's what David Henry did. David Henry was called the Giant Killer because there was no 212 when he fucking started.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be like, bro, live up to your fucking name.
Yeah. I think he could do well too. I'm not saying I think he could win it, but he could do well.
Listen, Sean being top 10 at DO is not a fucking It's not a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah. He's already going down in history books for 2 reasons: being in Mr. Olympia and winning a pro show. I'd be like, fuck, let's throw another feather in my cap and be top 10 at the fucking Open.
Why not?
Yeah.
So one of the most emotional shows that I've been to, and I didn't get to see you backstage afterwards, I guess you flew out of there or something, was the Texas Pro. Your last show.
Yeah.
That was a highly emotional situation.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to do that show, to be honest with you.
No,
I got told that they kind of wanted me to retire after they put me in fucking second to last place at was it whatever show, Tampa? I don't even know what fucking show it was.
And I thought you looked good to that show too, by the way.
So when I did the Bahamas, it was just it was a mishap with Chris and missing the diet. It was just wrong diuretics. It was bad timing. And I ended up fucking softening out completely. It actually took me 2.5 days to actually look better after that show. And that out of every show I've ever done, that show really pissed me off and upset me, because I really wanted to retire this year at the Olympia on the stage. And I felt that I didn't cherry pick a show. That Bahamas show was the one I wanted to do. I didn't know who was doing it. John Jewett was actually supposed to do it, and he ended up not doing it. And there was only 4 guys in the show. That was a walk in the park, and none of those guys should have touched. I mean, I got second, but that should have never went down like that. I should have won that show hands over fist. That guy had no business beating me, but I was so off and so fucking bad that there was no coming back from it. And then I went to Tampa and did that show, and I carved up, but prior, because I had PJ, I was like, this is going to be my last show, PJ. And PJ's been, I've been knowing PJ for forever. He was one of the first guys that helped me. So I was like, we started together. You want to die together and fucking just one last time? And he was like, let's fucking do it. So we did it, but during the carve up, we did something different for Tampa that we did like 2 practice carve up runs, and they worked great. And then the day I did the carve up, the day before the show, there was one thing we didn't do that we normally did in my carve up. And normally when I carved up during the previously, I took a little bit of insulin to help shut all the fucking carbs into my system. At Tampa, and I never done that before, but when I tested it out with PJ, it worked wonders. At Tampa, we did the regular meal that I had always done, but we didn't have the insulin. So no insulin was used. So, and then on top of that, I was increasing my water. And as soon as I had that meal, I was like, I don't like how this looks. Because I was fucking full, but watery. And I was like, hopefully this fucking diuretic will pull the water out, but it didn't. And then we ended up going to Texas. And the only reason I went to Texas was because that Sunday, I was literally in my car, in my driveway. This is how that day happened. I got home on Sunday, and Branch called me, gave me a little conversation, and we talked, and he said that he spoke to a couple of the head guys, and they said, like, this is your time, bro. Like, this is it. Like, they want you to step off and retire. So I was like, all right, we talked for a little bit. I was like, all right, I'm gonna call you back. Then I go to get my mail, and then I have a buddy stops by, makes me a $700,000 offer on my house on the spot. And then, because I've been debating moving to Texas for quite some time now. And then I said, listen, I said, I got a lot of stuff going on. I said, I just retired. I said, my head's up my ass. I said, give me a couple of days to think about this, and I'll get back to you. And then I came inside, I grabbed some pickles and some squash and shit I was dropping off to my neighbors, got in my car, pulled my car out of the garage, shut my garage door, just went to go put my car in the drive. My buddy Paul from Bullfrog Nutrition calls me, and I pick up, and I'm like, yo. And he goes, hey, man, I got some bad news. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, are you sitting down? And I'm like, I'm in my car. He's like, yeah, but this is like really bad. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And he like wouldn't say it. And it took him like 2 minutes. And I'm finally like, Paul, I finally snapped. And I go, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, fucking tell me what's going on, because you're freaking me out. And he just said, he goes, John died in his sleep last night. And it was just like 2 minutes of just like dead. And I was like, I got to call you back. And I just hung up the phone, and I just sat in my car like, is this fucking for real? Like, I was just with him 2 weeks ago. Like, and I still have the text. He texted me, kill it this weekend. And I never responded to it. And I was like, that day, I was so pissed off Sunday on the way home from the flight from Florida. I didn't eat anything Saturday after the show. I didn't eat anything at all on Sunday. Nothing. Because I was just so upset about like the placing and what they did, and probably retiring. And then I got the phone call about John. And then it took me a while to get myself together, and I made a couple phone calls, and I was like, I'm doing Texas. I was like, I never got to respond to John. I was like, I don't like how I looked. So I made a phone call to the IBB, and I talked to Tyler, and I'm like, listen, I said, I know I've never won any major shows. I'm not Mr. Olympia. I said, but people might not want to admit it or not, but there's not a lot of guys that have done as much for the sport and have competed as much and has been around the world as I have. And I said, if you think I'm going out with a 16 next to my name with a crowd of 100 people in Tampa, I go, you're fucking crazy. I go, because it ain't happening like that. I said, I'm not doing it. And he was like, what do you want? I said, I want to do Texas. And he was like, then show up how you been, because the problem I was having is leading up to the show, I was great. Then the day of the show, I'd fall apart. And I did Texas, and I didn't know they were going to do anything. I just thought I was going to go to Texas, and that was going to be it. And they said, do you want to speak? I said, I don't really need to say anything. I said, I'm good. I just like, well, you know, if you guys want to do something, don't tell me, because I don't want to have to think about it. If you want to do something, fine. If not, I don't care. Like, I'm not here to get praise. I'm here to get redemption for my physique on how it looked. And quite frankly, I don't think I deserved sixth at that show either, but that's nor here nor there. I thought I deserved a much better placing, but I think they put me in sixth because they knew I was retiring, and they knew that it was like I was going to be done after that. So I don't think they really cared where I placed. But afterwards, Bob letting me speak, and I didn't even know that picture they took with all the lighting in the background, with all like the sparks going off. I didn't even know that was happening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had no clue until he showed me the photo. I was like, oh, dude, I said, did you Photoshop that? And he was like,
no, that was happening.
Yeah, that was happening behind you. But it was it was hard to give a speech that emotional and trying to thank everybody that I could, because the only person that I could think about was John. Yeah. You know? And it's hard to, nobody who had a career or I don't even know what to call. I don't want to call my career a great career. I don't want to say it's a good career, but somebody that had a career that I had, and, you know, done what I've done in the sport, it's hard to sum up everything into one speech on a stage, you know? And as much as you try to do it, and I think the emotional part was the fact that, because it's not like I don't call myself a bodybuilder, but like when I went to 212 was it 212 finals or prejudging? No, 212 prejudging was in the expo. 212 finals was Friday night, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I went there Friday night, and I watched a little bit of the show. Like we got there, watched a little bit, and I'm like, I gotta go. And they're like, well, I said, I don't. I said, this is actually starting to bother me. I'm like, I'm gonna go. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, it's not because I don't want to watch my buddies compete. It's not because I don't want to watch a show, but it's like I was sitting there and I started to like my legs started to like shake, like, and I'm like, I want to be up there. I don't feel right sitting here watching this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I should be up there. And I was like, I just want to go. I just need, for me, for my mental fucking sake, need to get out of here. So I just left.
Yeah. You know, I think next year you might feel differently. It was just that you were just on stage in August. Yeah. It was still really real for you. So
yeah. Because it's all still new. I'm still like, I'm so busy, but I'm still trying to find like my lane that I need to be in for being retired, you know, because even like Jay will call me, why do you still train like that, you idiot? I'm like, I don't know. Like, stop training so heavy. I'm like, I don't know what else to do.
Right.
You know, I get when you're cut from a certain cloth, like it's kind of like I don't know how to turn it off. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know, but
yeah,
you know.
You mentioned John's passing. I'm sure that must have been just horrible for you, and continuing on.
They all, man. I mean, I was on BSN with Dallas. I knew Dallas very well. Me and Luke were fucking great friends. John was my fucking trainer. George was a guy that I fucking competed against and saw him at Bev's every goddamn time I was there. It's like everybody that, and I said this, it's not like somebody else passing would be of lesser or greater value, but for me, it's like, and then Jen passing, it's like everybody that I know. These aren't, all right, this isn't like so-and-so bodybuilder from blah, blah, blah that I've never, these are like real people that like at shows come up to me and hug me and like I've seen them and hung out with them and spent time with them and broke bread with them. Like these aren't just like people got them like, oh, another body, but like, no, these aren't just, this isn't just another fucking body, but like, these are my friends,
right?
You know? And then for people to go on and fucking throw their opinions as to what they think the cause was or what they think happened or why steroid, like who gives a fuck what the cause is? Because the reality is, regardless of what the cause is, it's not going to bring them back. It's not going to really change what anybody else does in their life because everybody's going to live their own life the way they see fit. And we should fucking, like, George died at 37. That part sucks. But what he did for the 37 years he was here, he did more than most people did that lived to be 80 or 90 fucking years old. Why not talk about those things instead of trying to point the finger as to what went wrong or what happened? Because with all the shit that's going on between, you know, who's getting this shot or who's denying this vaccine or who's doing this or there's so many different variables that could have got into play with a lot of these deaths because a lot of these people that we know, John, George, Jen, I don't know about John, George and Jen both got the vaccine. Jen just had gotten the vaccine. So you just don't know. Was it natural causes? Were they sick prior? Was it due to a vaccine? Was it a blood clot? Was it a heart? Like, we don't know. So to sit here and speculate about what killed them, let's talk about why we were happy when they were here. And nobody does that. And that's what really sucks. And the only time you see that is when you're actually at the funeral like I was and watching it. Right. That's when you see people do the right thing and they praise the person that you're there for, not bashing them and hating on them or trying to point a finger as to the who, what, where, when, and why they're not here no more. Like, that's insane to me.
It's insane. I watched the funeral here in Dallas, it was streamed on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watched the whole thing and the comments that were coming through, everything honestly was just beautiful. Everything was super positive and how much everyone loved George. And then someone says, are the family mad at Justin? And I wanted to throw the friggin' laptop across the room. Why is this a thought in your fucking head?
Right now, especially.
Right. And you spoke about this in a great video that you did on Instagram about, like, you know, no matter what. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying that the video about making peace.
Yeah, and just about just also, you know, athletes make a choice. And there's no coach putting a gun to anyone's head saying you got to do this. And I'm even bringing that up is kind of weird because we don't even know what the cause was. So why are we just assume this? Yeah. I don't know.
Listen, like I said in the video, I played football for 15 years. I have fucking horrible memory. I got hit in the head every play. I played football in full pads from 3rd grade through college. I made a choice to do that. I made a choice I knew if I entered college and played ball, I knew what the fucking benefit, what the good and the bad was if I did that. I knew when I started bodybuilding and taking certain things, I knew what the good and I knew the bad. Like when I've gotten in the car and I fucking drive 150 down the highway, I know that if something goes wrong or that's my fault. Like no matter, like waking up in the morning and everything we do, everything we eat, every breath we take we're taking. I'm breathing now. This is because I want to breathe now. I'm eating now because I want to eat now. I'm doing this. Everything we do is a choice. You can't get mad at somebody, even if, let's say, all the people that I mentioned died, and it came out that they were on astronomical amounts of steroids and they were taking all these different drugs, and that's what killed them. At the end of the day, if they were fucking bodybuilding and being a competitive bodybuilder and they were happy for the extent of their life because that's what they enjoyed doing, who the fuck am I to tell somebody to not live like that? I'm not talking about heroin addicts or fucking drugs. I'm talking about people that play sports, people that play, like people bash football, bodybuilding. I played college football. I know professional football players in the NFL. If you guys don't think that the same things that bodybuilders take run rampant in the NFL, then you're an idiot wrapped in a fucking moron, because it absolutely fucking, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But the only difference is that us bodybuilders showcase our physiques on stage, where the guys are covered in 12 pounds of padding on the field.
Right. And you guys are dieting for that specific look and everything, which those guys aren't.
You know, and it's not easy and it's not the healthiest, but we live in a sport where, like, yes, people are going to die. And it's been, people think, oh, so many people are dying. And it seems that way. But if you collectively take all the amateurs and all the pros and fucking put them all collectively together, there's not that many people dying. We just see it because it's in our face, because as soon as it dies, the media outlet wants to go, oh, look who died again. Or look at who died again in bodybuilding, or look who died again. Like, we have a very, as much as we call it a niche sport, we have a lot of amateurs and there's a lot of pros out there. You know, and people, and part of life, people are gonna die in car wrecks, die from strokes, die from fucking heart attacks, die from pulmonary embolisms, brain embolisms, cancer. Like it's, and some people might die from diuretics, and some people might die from overdoing the gear stuff, but that's part of life and that's a choice. And that there's nothing left to say about it. Like, if you can't make peace with the choices you make, you're living a shitty life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The same thing happened or happens from time to time in professional wrestling too, when a bunch of wrestlers will die and then they're like, oh, look, the sport is killing them. But when you, like you say, there's a lot of people who enter the world of professional wrestling, and 5 of them die in a year. I mean, how many people die? You know, whatever. But
it's true. I mean, look at, you think in NFL, all these guys that current, past, or like, you know how many football players probably pass every couple months that we don't hear about?
Right.
You know, from brain issues, or, you know, listen, my body's more banged up physically because of football than it is bodybuilding.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, like my injuries are shown on bodybuilding stages because of football.
Right.
You know? Like, I never got really injured in the gym. Never.
Yeah. Yeah. George was never injured in the gym. I know he never was really sick. Like you say, you know, he went to bed that night happy. He went to bed that night excited to win the Olympia.
Yeah.
he was doing what he loved. And I know that you say like, we both said that it's a choice, but I think you guys take risks not thinking it's going to be you or it's going to happen.
Yes. Yes.
It's not been normal. If so, George, looking down, would never have wanted to see his mom and sister crying.
No. And that's, and I think people lost a little bit of what I said in the video. I said, George went to bed and people are like, oh, he went to bed happy. He went to bed happy knowing he was going to die and he's sleeping. I'm like, that's completely not the context of what I said. My point was that dude was 37 years old, getting ready to compete on the biggest stage of the fucking year, looked the best he's ever looked, had his coach and the people around him that he loved, and he went to sleep happy because he was in the best place possible, because he was getting ready for something that he's been fucking getting ready for and passionate and loved for the past 16 or 20 weeks. And he was a couple days out and he had family, friends. And you mean to tell me he wasn't happy when he went to bed? How can I not believe that? I'm not saying he's happy he didn't fucking wake up, which people like to throw my words around. I said, I like to believe that he went to sleep happy. And if I was ever going to die, I want to go upstairs to my bed one night, fall asleep. And if it's my time, if God calls me at that time, I just rather not wake up. Because to me, that is the most graceful way to go. In your bed, sleeping, you take your last breath and it's it. There's no struggle. There's no infection. There's no disease. There's no cancer. There's no hospital rooms. It's just natural. And I said it in a podcast the day before he died. If I could ever choose my way of death, it would be to go to bed and not wake up. And the next day I got the phone call about George.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, it's a part of the sport. It's a part of life, but you remember it, you move on, and you keep him in your memory. And he's in everything that we all do.
Exactly.
And that's just, and you move on, you know? And if it's me, I hope people, you know, do the same thing. They remember me, they fucking have memories of me. And then, you know, once everything's gone and the dust is settled, they move on with their lives and just keep the memories of me with them. And that's it.
Right. That's all you can do. Yeah. Like, you know? The best you can hope for. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best case out of the worst case scenario, man.
Exactly.
Because you're guaranteed one thing in life and you're going to die. That's it. The only guarantee.
Right.
When you're born, there's one guarantee in your life when you're born, and that is at some point you're going to die.
Yeah.
And and we all think that death should come when you're 70s, 80s, 90s. Like that's because that's when we're growing up. That's what people lived in their 70s. People lived to 80s. Right. People lived to their 90s. But those people maybe didn't make the choices that we make. So we're shaving some years off our life because of the decisions we made, whether it's fucking going out and partying or drinking or popping pills or smoking weed or fucking smoking this or taking this drug or doing this, you know, these steroids. Like those are all choices we make. Anybody that goes out to a bar and drinks Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not going to point the finger at him or point the finger at the guy that takes a shot at test on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right.
Like that's those are two choices that could both be very hazardous to your health.
Yes. One is accepted and the other is not.
Which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah, unbelievable.
You know? Yeah. But
all right, Guy, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that you didn't get to?
No, man, I just wanted to come on because I know we talked about it after my retirement and I wanted to make sure especially with all the negative going on. I mean, I wanted to get on and kind of bring some positive light because I feel like there's been so much negative in the industry lately. And I don't feel like people are highlighting a lot of the good that's happening. Because with life, there's good and there's bad. And you got to fucking make peace with both. And even if it's a choice that you make, if it's with every choice, there's a good and there's a bad. And you got to be okay with either one of them, you know?
Right.
And I feel like with bodybuilding, there's been a lot of, I don't want to say bad, just like a lot of negative because of the passings of a lot of people. And I feel, and I've heard a lot of talk about people, you know, backing out, you know, not wanting to compete as much or not. And listen, if this isn't for you, it just isn't for everybody. You know, it's not like, and there are healthier ways to go about doing it. And there is going to come time in everybody's life where they're going to come to that road where there's a stop sign and it says you got to go left or you got to go right. And you got to make a decision and you got to be okay with it. You know, there's a lot I can go off of this topic because there's a lot of things and people that I know that I don't believe should be doing certain things they're doing because of, you know, like I have a client who's older, almost in their 50s, and they want to do this and they want to take all this stuff. And I'm like, if your goal is just to compete, then why not just get in shape for you instead of, I mean, talking about doing the drugs and this. And I'm like, at 50 something years old, do you really think you're going to beat people in their 20s or their 30s? Do you really think there's any drugs in the world that's going to make you better than those people on stage? Like, well, I just want to look my best. Well, why don't you look your best and not worry about the people on stage? Like, I think there are people that knowingly put themselves in a worse position than they should be and do things that they shouldn't be doing because they just quote unquote want to. And if that's what you want to do, I was at a seminar. This is pro Eileen. She's had like a brain tumor removed. She's had like all this stuff done. She's going to be 60 and she's still competing. And I'm just like, I told her, like, just be careful. Like, make sure you're healthy. Like, I can't. She's like, well, my daughter's begging me to stop and I don't want to because this is who I am. And I'm like, it's who you are. Doesn't mean you have to do it on stage.
Yeah.
Like, you can be 60-year-old pro figure competitor and not be on that stage. Cause like you've already gotten like a second chance at life. Like, I'm not saying don't live. You can live the lifestyle without being like on that stage. And that's my goal as a retired pro is to live the pro bodybuilding life, just not being on that stage. Right. And that's why people go, why do you still do this? Why? Because I can, because I want to, because I love it. And I think people hang on to the dream too long. And that's kind of where a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
You know, dreams are made to end at some point. You know, that's why we wake up. You know, they're called dreams because at some point, even if it's something we achieve when we're awake, dreams are not forever. We always wake up from a dream. So no matter how good my career was, it was a dream that eventually I had to wake up from and stop.
That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
You know, yeah. And I just wish, I'm not saying my way's right of looking at it because I was also raised, my dad always told me, you can't get upset with people that don't react the same or act the same in situations that you would because they weren't brought up like you. So you can't get mad that people don't think, act, or react the same in every situation as you because they weren't raised by you and your mother. So that's also something I take in when I talk to people or before. I'm like, well, they weren't raised like me. So I can't fucking really blame them for wanting or not wanting to do certain things because maybe that's how what their parents instilled in them. Right. And who am I to change that?
Right.
You know? So my whole thing was if somebody could just take something from fucking all the negative that was going on, it's just regardless of what you do in your life, as long as you make peace with your decisions that you make and know that the people around you, regardless of who they are, because every person I talk to that listen to that video, they're like, we've had that talk with ourselves a million times. It's like an unspoken fucking talk and truth that we all have as professional bodybuilders. And I feel like if you haven't had that talk with yourself yet and you haven't made peace with it, it's either time to make peace and move on or make peace and figure out your next step as a bodybuilder.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know, during earlier in the season when there were a few different girls who had passed, Shelby Starnes was getting a lot of flack on Instagram and everything else from some former athletes and such of his. And I just thought, this is just ridiculous, you know, like people. The only way a coach could kill somebody is if he took a gun and shot him in the face. Yeah, exactly. Coaches don't kill people, decisions do. They got to realize that. Right. You know? Also, Jen, how old was Jen? Jennifer Hernandez, we're talking about. 59. 59, yeah. She looked freaking amazing. I saw her not too long ago at some show. I didn't speak with her.
She was at Branch's house last week with Trish.
Just amazing energy level, positivity, you know, and I don't know. I think a lot of these people who have gone, like she and George, are only going to be remembered for a long period of time for only positive reasons. And in some ways, I mean, that's like, you know, as good as you can hope for in a way.
That's
you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do. When somebody's passed away, you got to remember them for who they are, the joy they brought you, and that's it. Yeah. Because there's nothing else you can do at that point.
Exactly.
You know, and if you want, just live your life the way that person would have wanted you to live your life, or the way we all talk about the way George lived his life, smiling, happy. That if you want to represent George in any way, start living your life a little bit more like him.
Exactly.
You know, smile a little more, be a little more happier, give a little more compliments. Don't be complaining all the time. Like that was George.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a better way to remember somebody than fucking, you know, throwing up an Instagram post once in a while.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm having trouble, you know, posting. I've done posts about him, but I still really haven't delved into it.
Yeah, because it's not easy.
It's not. So yeah, in time. But anyway, thank you so much, Guy. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, man. You've been a fan and a supporter of mine for a long time, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, your career was, or it still is, but as a competitor, tremendous. How many people have won 2 New York pros back to back? How many pro wins do you have?
7.
You've been on the Olympia stage how many times?
7.
Yeah, that's pretty spectacular. So
yeah, you know, as a bodybuilder, I think we tend to look at what we didn't do and what we, you know, rather than what we did.
I want to tell this story about George real fast, and it was last year at the Olympia. He placed third. His first 212. It was his 4th time placing third in a row, because he was three times he was third in Classic. After the show, back at the hotel room, you know, Justin was down, everyone was down. He was the person who brought the room up by saying, you know, his perspective was different. You know, like he said, Michael, just tell me, how many people have been on the Olympia stage and 4 years in a row placed third? I thought about it. And I went, George Peterson. He went, okay, that's something.
Let's celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a way to look at life, you know. Like
100%, man. Yeah.
So thanks, bro. I really appreciate you coming on. We'll do it again sometime soon, hopefully.
Whenever you want, man. I'm always around.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Stay on for a sec, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. This is Michael Bryson, Guy CISTERNINO. This is Bodybuilding. Take care.
Be good, guys.